Welcome to Compassionate Heart Parenting. I'm your host, Michelle. I want to start with a question that I think about all the time, both as a therapist and as a mom. Why is it that the moments we lose it the most as parents are almost never really about what's happening in front of us? The meltdown that makes us rage, the sibling fight that sends us over the edge, the child who just won't listen. And suddenly we're somewhere else entirely, flooded with something that feels way bigger than this moment. Today's guest knows exactly why that happens, and she has a story about her own child, a child with ADHD who used to scream at her in the car on the way home from school, hurling insults and completely falling apart. That I think every parent in this audience needs to hear because that child is now a young adult. And the way they communicate, the emotional intelligence they carry, and the relationship they have is a testament to what is possible when parents stay curious. Katharina Sandezel is a licensed marriage and family therapist with over 25 years of experience, certified by ICEFT in all three areas of emotionally focused therapy for couples, individuals, and family, and also a certified AEDP therapist. She is one of the most clinically grounded voices on what actually happens inside parents when parenting gets hard and what it takes to repair, grow, and show up differently. If you've ever felt like your child is somehow unlocking something ancient inside of you, something you didn't even know was there, this conversation is going to give you language for that. And more than that, it's going to give you hope. Katharina, I'm so glad you're here. Before we get into your clinical work, I want to start with your story because I think what you shared before we started recording is going to mean so much to parents listening right now. You had a child with ADHD before anyone was really talking about ADHD. And there were moments in those years that were genuinely hard. Can you take us back to one of those moments, maybe one of the car rides home from school, and tell us what was happening and what you learned?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. Um, oh my gosh, it was hard. It was really hard. Um, and I think, yeah, the main thing that stands out for me are the car rides home, but there were also lots and lots of meltdowns at home, of course. Um,
Mhm.
I think that he would hold it together at school and
Mhm.
just let it all out in the car. Um, and there wasn't a lot of, I mean, we knew about ADHD at the time. The teachers were saying something, but there was no, like right now, it's like kind of like every second therapist is like a specialist in ADHD. It was not like that. Nobody knew. So I had no idea. But I think definitely getting super triggered by the anger, the insults, like the extreme
Mhm.
of emotion. I
Mhm.
think that is just hard for anybody.
Mhm.
Just most of us are raised kind of being told like stay calm, like don't get too emotional, like we're kind of told that by
Mhm.
our parents. For me in
Right.
particular, it was like anger is a bad thing. That's kind of like what I grew up
Mhm.
with. So when somebody gets when he especially got so angry, I was like, or just so emotional, it was like, oh my gosh. I think what was happening in me, I would get very dysregulated. I think what was happening was like
Mhm.
probably that thought of feeling of like, oh, this is bad, or these emotions are bad, or there's something wrong with these emotions. And I think
Mhm.
that's the important thing I started to reframe was like, there's nothing wrong,
Mhm.
just emotional. I actually didn't even think about ADHD. I was like, this is and it is also just a strong personality, which is actually serves him later in life and doing amazing now, by the way. But
Mhm.
that strong personality, it's a personality thing. They do an emotional, also sensitive, emotional, strong personality. They get affected by everything. So it's also like highly sensitive people get
Right.
affected by everything around them. They hold it throughout the day. And then when they're safe with their parents, it all comes out. So that was how I started to hold it. Like, this is just,
Mhm.
and he's not wrong. He's not bad. He's not like, I would just stop pathologizing. This is just
Mhm.
what am I getting triggered by? My own sense of, oh my God, that this is bad to have strong emotion. and just sit with him, like pull aside, pull off the road and
Mhm.
just make time. And that's
Mhm.
the thing I'm really, and I didn't always do it. I mean, I made 1,000 mistakes, believe me. So I just want to say, like, I made so many mistakes. But one thing I think that I did well, which I was lucky, I was able to say, you know what? It doesn't matter. I don't need to be home at a certain time. If dinner
Mhm.
is half an hour late, or if I make the call later, it's okay, whatever I need to do, because this is the most important thing right now.
Mhm.
Need to just give him some space and hold kind of like, and what he needed and what most kids need when they do that is they need emotional regulation. And so if I'm dysregulated and I'm freaking out, obviously that's not going to help. But let's say I do, and then I can bring myself back and go, okay, hold on. I think I just kind of lost it just now. Let me take a breath
Mhm.
there, right? Let me take a breath. Let's breathe together. Let's
Mhm.
take a break. I know we're both upset rather than you're upset. You need to calm down. We're both upset right now.
Yeah.
Let's take a breath together and just be in this. And we're feeling some strong emotions. There's some strong emotions here right now, and it's hard and just kind of validating and leaving. Oh, and when he said mean things, obviously, like you can't say those things. We're not going to say those things, those
Mhm.
things. Like if he says, how kids can be. I'm not even gonna. But and it's like, let's just take a breath together. And so I'm real, and that would calm him down because it was like, now there's space, now there's validation. He's not being pathologized, he's being held, and we're doing it together. And I'm not like some grand poobah here on the hill. I'm actually doing it with him. And so
Mhm.
felt that holding and that container and safety to be able to slowly calm down and also be able to talk about his feelings because I was naming them too. Again,
Mhm.
not the grand teacher, but I think the modeling helps, like to be able to say, I think we're just upset, or I think there's just this, it's so hard to hold all this stuff all day long, you know.
Yeah. I really like that being able to name it must have been so hard to hold this all day long. And then that you're right there with him. Like, I feel like I've put pressure on myself, and sometimes we as parents do, like, we're supposed to have it always all together and always be calm and always whatever. But you're saying we can acknowledge that, like, this is hard. There's a lot of emotions. We're in this together. I'm feeling big emotions too. Like, it's okay to acknowledge that. And actually, you're kind of joining a little bit more by acknowledging that we have emotions too. And it sounds like, in a way, naming your own emotions kind of helped you stay regulated because you were so conscious about, okay, he's overloaded from the day. There's nothing wrong with him. There's nothing wrong with what I'm doing as a parent. I'm not failing because my kiddo's having a hard time in the car ride home. It's like it has nothing to do with any of that. It has to do with what there's been containing all day, which I think most parents can really, they see that, right? The kid comes home from school and they're throwing their backpack down and, and just like grumbly. And so to be able to recognize, like, oh, okay, they're trying to communicate something here that they've been holding in all day, and they finally are home in a safe place. And while it's not always super fun for us as parents, they finally get to just be. And then, like, yeah, like, oh, this is what I've been carrying all day. Like, I'm tired of carrying this. And then we get to be there to kind of hold that for them. And I'm wondering, you mentioned that your kiddo now as a young adult is emotionally intelligent, very emotionally intelligent. How do you think how you responded with curiosity and that car ride home that you described, those kind of scenes, how do you think that helped develop emotional intelligence?
Well, I think just naming the emotions, but not to an extreme. Like I think therapists are sometimes guilty of over processing. So no, not doing that, but just like normalizing and naming the emotion and making it okay. And also myself doing it sometimes, because like I'm feeling angry right now. I'm going to go take a couple breaths over here, and I'll be back in 5 minutes or whatever. And I think what the reason why parents get so a lot of times why parents get upset is because they're scared, because they're like, why is my kid having this strong emotion? And it brings up fear in the parent because they're like,
Mhm.
what's wrong with them? I think what really helps is nothing's wrong, like really non-pathologizing, nothing's wrong. They are just holding a lot. This is
Mhm.
a unique person, like everyone's different. And they're holding what they're holding, and that
Hmm.
can help them the most. And one more thing is that I'm really happy now that they're adult, my kids are adults, like that I made that time, that time. And we don't always do it, obviously. Like there's, again, like we all make a lot of mistakes, but to make that time is so precious. And I'm so happy
Hmm.
that I did it now.
Yeah. And I'm sure it kind of positively impacted your relationships with them now as young adults too, that you were able to kind of take that time and, like you said, non-pathologize. And I think you're right. I mean, I think for most parents, there is so much fear around, there's around so many things. But is my kiddo okay? And if they're having these big, huge behaviors, are they okay? And something else that you talked about, that you talk about is that our own histories and our own attachment experiences can show up that in ways that we don't always realize. And so I'm wondering, what does it look like when a parent has unresolved experiences of trauma and that might start showing up in a parenting moment without the parent even realizing?
Yeah, great question. And let me just say about the non-pathologizing, that doesn't mean you don't get the help you need and that you don't find out what the diagnosis is and that's great. And also going, you know what, ADHD, so many people have it now. It's not
Mhm.
anything's terribly wrong, right?
Right. Hmm.
Okay, yes, great question. I, I see it all the time, but it's so normal because we all have stuff we had in our childhood. We have different levels of trauma, small trauma, big trauma, different things. And so we, of course, want our kids not to go through that because our kids are like the most precious thing to us,
Hmm.
right? And so we don't want them to go through what we went through in
Hmm.
whatever way. So we tend to overcompensate to avoid that.
Hmm.
We have trouble reading the situation. We have trouble knowing in those specific kind of
Hmm.
traumas. So let's say like someone had a parent who didn't protect them growing
Hmm.
up from a raging father or from a raging parent. And then that parent with their kids will want to like really protect their kids, but they can't,
Hmm.
which is great. Of course, we want to protect our
Hmm.
kids, but they can't quite tell when do they need protection and when do they need to kind of deal with something, or when can you just kind of be at their side and not be over protecting. So that's one that I see a lot, and again, it makes total sense.
Hmm.
Another one is like, let's say you saw strong, well, in this case, like with my son, when you see strong emotion, you're told growing up strong emotions are bad, and then your kid has strong emotions. I think the first instinct might be to have a reaction like, ooh, I don't want this, like to kind of reject it.
Hmm. Shut it down, reject it, punish it.
Exactly, exactly. And that's what our parents did.
Right.
So we might do the opposite. We might be like, no, we don't want to do that. But then you overindulge. You also don't want to overindulge the emotion and go let them have a meltdown whenever they feel say whatever they want. You know what I mean? So it's this
Mhm.
balance. And how do you find that balance? And it's so tricky, so tricky. And I think the main thing we need to do is be compassionate with ourselves as
Mhm.
parents because we're growing and learning. Life is a school, for all of us.
Yes, life is a school. I love that. If only we could remember that at these tough moments, right? I remember one of my parenting coaches saying, like, oh, that's my messy family. She would have me repeat that. And it was like, oh, like with all my being, I wanted to control everything. I wanted to have these nice little kids that got out of the car and played on the playground nicely and then nicely walked back into the car. And so the idea that life was messy was very difficult to accept and very real. It's kind of like you're saying we're not going to there's just things out of our control that we cannot, and then the pendulum unintentionally swings too far in the other direction. So, what do you think are some of the early signs that a parent's reaction might be coming from something deeper in the situation in front of them? How could a parent know, like, is my reaction about this that's happening right in front of me, or is it something deeper?
Great question. And I just want to say first, for really quick, so I don't forget, messiness is actually good. messy, because if you don't have any messiness, you're not going to have that ability to handle frustration. So mess and messiness in life, because life is messy. So messiness is actually good.
Mhm.
I would way prefer a family who is messy, which all of them are, including mine. Um, and then a family where everything's perfect and we're trying to keep it together and everything's kind of under the surface. We want our
Mhm.
kids to get frustrated and be able to tolerate it. We want them to be used to messiness and be able to tolerate it. This is all building
Mhm.
muscle to be able to handle these situations later in life. So it's actually good. Um,
What a helpful reframe, like that we can look at those situations, which might feel yucky in the moment. They might feel embarrassing, like we kind of want to hide. We want to hide our messiness. We want to hide our kids' messiness. But actually, you're saying we're helping them build a muscle that life will be messy. There will be frustrating things. And so when we make space for the messiness and the frustration, we're kind of coming alongside them as a coach through that so that versus if we squash it and shut it down, then I guess they don't really have any way of learning how to handle difficult emotions or frustrations because they were always just squashed and shut down. Am I kind of following you?
and naming, I mean, to even supercharge it is to name the messiness, to be like, it's a little messy in our family sometimes. Isn't that, that's it's just is what it is. It is messy sometimes, but we always get through it, don't we? Or something like positive, and we because you're repairing all the time too. That's the most important thing, is the repair. You're going to mess up like 100 times a day. That's normal. At least I did. But to be able to
Mhm.
come back and go, I messed up. I'm sorry. Let me listen to what that was like for you, or just a quick
Mhm.
repair. But yeah, it's messy sometimes in our family, but we always work through it. You know, that's
That's
like,
a really powerful repair. And so, like you said, quick and easy. I messed up. What was that like for you? Is that what you said? I messed up. Even just that's the first part, right? I messed up. How was that for you?
yeah, or I messed up and I know I left you upset for a minute, and I wish I wouldn't have done that because I know
Mm.
or I was breathing in the other room and you were upset, and I feel bad that you were alone with that, but I'm here now,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah, yeah. I really like that we don't have to overthink these repairs, but those kind of just acknowledging a tough moment and circling back. And I love that you end with I'm here now. But I'm
Mhm.
here now, right? Is like yeah, because that's all our kids want to know is that we're here now. And I think of for a lot of parents, if we think about were we ever apologized to? I mean, hopefully, but probably often not. Many times not. Many times not apologized to. And I would think for our parents, it wasn't even on their radar. Like it wasn't being talked about the parent-child relationship. It was like that was just not on our parents' radar. And so, of course, they weren't thinking about that. And they weren't necessarily thinking about the power of repair and apologizing. And when I talk to adults who have had repairing conversation as adults with their, possibly elderly parents, like it changes something inside of them for the rest of their life. Like it is so powerful. So, as little kids, when we have younger kids, or even teenage, preteens, all that kind of stuff, like we can do these mini repairs. But if we've had like a bigger kind of rupture, it's never too late. It's never too late.
Exactly, and it's never too late to turn something around, even if it's been going badly for a year or more.
Mhm.
But yeah, the apology, I mean, my whole family, we're all apologizers now. The kids are apologizers in a good way. Like if there's no shame in apology. And so they're really good at that, which is an added benefit. They learn from what we do.
Right. It's modeling. So not only are we repairing, but we're also modeling apology and repair for them. And then I love that you get to see that now that you have these young adults that they also apologize and you can see them using that. So the question I asked earlier, what are some of the early signs that parents' reactions might be coming from something deeper?
Yeah, that's a great question. Usually we don't see it when we're in it because it's like the nervous system is being hijacked. We're
Mhm.
So usually it's like an overreaction, basically.
Hmm.
Kind of
Hmm.
in hindsight later, you go, oh, why did that seem like a big reaction to have for that situation?
Hmm.
That's one sign. um, yeah, I mean, that's the biggest. Or if you just feel like so upset, and you don't understand why, why am I so upset? Like this doesn't, um, I think that's basically the big one. And kind of knowing when your nervous system is getting hijacked and the difference between when you're feeling regulated and not regulated. I mean, obviously, we're not going to be regulated even when we're not triggered necessarily.
Hmm.
Like this very intense need to make it better for our
Hmm.
child, or to some intense reaction that is usually a trigger. And it doesn't mean that nothing's happening in the moment. Obviously, that's the tricky thing. Something is happening in the moment.
Hmm.
We're triggered. So it's both at the same
Hmm. And when parents start to be able to notice, oh, XYZ happened, and maybe yesterday my kid threw the backpack on the floor and I kind of could respond calmly and roll with it. And then the next day they threw the backpack on the floor and I flipped my lid or whatever it might be. And they can kind of see, oh, like I'm having a really big reaction. I'm really feel so intense. And maybe this isn't just about my kiddo throwing the backpack on the floor. Or maybe this isn't just about like they must do their chores now. Maybe there's something else.
time.
How does that help parents show up differently with their kiddos once they recognize, oh, there's something deeper that's getting stirred up for me in this moment, and that's what's causing this big reaction?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think also what I forgot to add is that it's could also just be circumstance, like you didn't get enough sleep, your hormones. I mean, I went through perimenopause while my kids were teenagers, which was the
Mhm.
worst timing ever. Um,
Right? Yep, that's how it usually goes.
it's not good. Um, but yeah, just kind of real, I think having compassion for ourselves, like, oh, okay, it's this, it's probably this, and being able to kind of self-regulate, knowing, having that awareness, being able to come back and self-regulate. And then again, it's the repair. It's like coming back, because it's so hard to do it in the moment. The moment when
Mhm.
getting upset, it's like very hard to stop it in that very,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
getting
Mhm.
better at doing it quicker and quicker afterwards, and
Mhm.
maybe even in the moment. But it's kind of like the key is how soon after can you go, okay, I'm taking a deep breath now. I'm going to do the box breath. I'm going to do the
Mhm.
five hold, five out, five hold, and take a minute and calm, and then just validate myself, because first we have to validate ourselves, like, oh, I just didn't get enough sleep last night, or oh, I'm having PMS or whatever, or
Mhm.
really upset because of this trigger that came up. And
Mhm.
just validating, of course, because we have to nurture our inner child too. And this is the ADP, by the way, is
Mhm.
nurturing our inner child, because how are we going to be able to nurture and validate them if we're not doing it for ourselves? So it's like a kind of a joint effort. It's like
I really love that.
to do, it's almost like this is the impetus to do it for ourselves. So like really having some compassion and care for ourselves and why we're struggling, rather
Mhm.
than beating ourselves up or
Yes.
shaming ourselves. That's not helpful.
Yes.
I mean, it just makes it worse, right?
100%. I had that, like I went through a whole period of time where I was learning how to stop yelling. But when I finally could pause in the moment and I would take myself to the bathroom, but then I would fall into a pit of shame. And so it wasn't particularly helpful because then I would be so much in a hole that I was down and withdrawn from my kids, at least like a little bit. It was very, and so that is exactly what shifted is I had to start using self-compassion in those moments. And then that started changing how that whole thing went. And I have a thing called, for anybody listening, you can check out the pause and regroup, because it's the moment when you're like yelling mid yell or you've just yelled. And then I walk you through moving off the ledge, and then it ends with the self-compassion because yeah, like we have a tendency, even if we can pause, we start to like attack ourselves. And that's going to be just as harmful as the are equally harmful as the yelling itself and the rupture that that caused with our kiddos. So I love that you're adding that inner child work. What would be an example of an inner child work that a parent might, or that maybe you walked yourself through in one of those moments?
That's a great question. I mean, I think it becomes something, speaking of deliberate practice, sort of skill building, like doing reps, because it takes a lot of reps to get something to be like you probably experienced with the taking a time out or just taking a break to have it become habitual. But it might be just taking, it might be later. You might not have time because parents are so busy, right? But
Hmm.
if you've practiced, let's say you do it later before bed and you're like, okay, I'm going to take some time to work on this part. It's not just that you, because a lot of times the shame comes in, like when we feel bad about it. And then even if we tell ourselves, oh, it's okay, like you made a mistake, still the shame can be there. So we want to work with the shame of like also nurturing the shame, like, oh, that
Hmm.
shame came up, like that's what happened.
Yeah.
So kind of like treating that as a part that needs care. And so we can do it later before we go to bed, just have some time where we're kind of, you can visualize like a safe place or a safe, garden or outside place where you sit with that part and you
Hmm.
check in, what does that part need? Maybe it needs like a cup of tea, maybe it just needs you to hold it. I had there are different, so many different images that can come. It might just be they need to sit in our lap, and just hear that it's going to be okay, kind of thing.
Hmm.
But once you do that a bunch of times with the longer one before bed or in the morning,
Hmm. Hmm.
you can then pull it back quickly in the
Hmm.
moment. So when
Oh, I really like that.
then you can remember, oh yeah, this part of me really wants to just sit in my lap or wants to be in a sling. It's a really young part and wants to be in a sling. I'm going to
Mhm.
put it in the sling right now. I'm just going to imagine in the sling and give it a little pat and remember, let it know I'm here.
Mhm.
It's that quick. Once
Mhm.
you've done a little bit longer work, then it's,
Right.
oh, I'm doing that in that moment when I'm upset. And now I'm going to come back and go to my child and go, oh my gosh, I know I just kind of got really mad there. I'm sorry. I'm
Mhm.
stressed out today. But I just wanted you to know I love you, or
Mhm.
probably you had a hard day too, or something like that.
Mhm. Mhm.
You want to.
I really like that. So you can do this deliberate practice, like in the moment. Yeah, life's happening. Woo, like it's going. But then at the end of the day, you might have a moment to just remember. And I think that's what's crucial about this is because shame can so easily come in, it's normal that we want to like never think about that again. And then it just comes and hijacks us again later, or we beat ourselves up and we feel terrible. So we want to avoid that. And if we have a tool, we could actually look at it, but we can look at it with curiosity and compassion. It makes me think of the end of, I don't know if you're familiar with Tara Brach, but the RAIN practice, the N is nurture need. And it's kind of just that, like, what is happening for me? And I love imagining like that little part and thinking about, oh, that little part feels scared, that little part feels overwhelmed, and then being able to hold them or think about what they need and respond. And then it's so powerful what you're describing that over time in the moment, we can remember the little part. We can acknowledge the little part. We might put our hand on our heart, and internally, we're kind of doing this really meaningful thing where we're taking care of that little part, and then the everything just calms down so much faster.
Right.
And
That's right.
that is
And then we just regulate pretty quickly.
Yeah, that is very powerful and so healing. I mean, it sounds like, and this is the thing that I've felt like is so cool is these tough parenting moments can actually become agents of healing
Oh yes, that's beautiful. So
because it's like constant therapy throughout the day, right? Well, it has the potential to be. It's constantly stuff is getting stirred up, constantly, this stuff is coming to the surface, whether it be like you said, day-to-day stuff, maybe we're tired, overwhelmed with whatever, or old stuff. But either way, if we're getting curious about it and turning towards ourselves with compassion, we are practicing creating a new relationship with ourselves, which has the potential to be healing and shift how we feel about ourselves.
That's right. It's such an opportunity. It's amazing. And if you can see it that way, I mean, what a beautiful thing. And to use it as an opportunity. It's great. That's so I completely agree.
Yeah. And for anyone listening thinking, oh my gosh, that sounds really interesting, but it sounds like a lot of work. It has been. Like for me personally, this has been, I mean, I'm sure it will continue to be a lifelong process, but years of working with parent coaches, years of working, using my EFT skills on myself, years of using my self-compassion tools on myself. And over time, it became healing. And that's what kind of made me want to have these conversations is like, oh, there's an opportunity here, something that was painful and can be painful and frustrating can be potentially healing. And it's okay to get support. Like, it's okay to 100% get support.
And just like other challenges in our lives can be opportunities like illnesses and things like that,
Hmm.
opportunities for growth and like to say, what do I need to learn here?
Right. Yes. And let me see if I had another question for you. So you described your child as spirited, which I love that reframe of like big emotions, big personality, big opinions. I have one of those. For parents who think they're raising a child with either ADHD or highly sensitive, you mentioned that too, or a spirited child, big, intense energy, who are also exhausted and sometimes ashamed of how they react. What do you want them to understand about what their child's actually needing from them in those tough moments?
Mm, yeah. I mean, and a lot of times they're being rejected at school too.
Mm, right.
They're a little different. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard, for a lot of these kids. Or all three, they often have all three of the things you named, the highly sensitive,
Mm-hmm.
strong personality, and the ADHD. Um, but what are they needing? I think they're just needing our presence, our strength, to hold them it's almost like an energetic container of like, it's okay, you're okay, we can hold this together. You don't, because we're teaching them, we can hold
Mm-hmm.
this emotion together, these emotions together. They don't have to, you're not alone in this. The main thing is you're not alone in this,
Mm-hmm.
attachment, important thing is that they're not
Right.
this all by themselves. So they know that we're there,
Mm-hmm.
incorporate that into themselves as like a safe space in themselves. Because a lot of us didn't have that, like what you were describing with, the parents we might have had, like, we didn't necessarily, most people didn't have parents who were like, I'm here with you. Like, we're feeling
That's very much today, not 20 years ago.
so we're kind of learning it as we go. I don't know if I'm totally answering your question. Is there anything I'm not quite answering there?
Oh,
Is it?
I think so. You made me think of like these emotions can be scary for kids.
Yes.
Like these emotions can feel intense and scary. And it makes me think of the adults that I work with who say, I don't want to feel this. I don't want to go there. I'm scared of opening Pandora's box. I don't know if I'll be able to get out of bed. I don't know what will happen if I feel these emotions. And so, of course, like kids can feel fear along with the overwhelm. And so I love that you said our main, you know, goal is to just be there with them so they don't have to be alone when they're feeling those big, intense feelings. By our calm presence, we're signaling to them, your emotions are normal and reasonable. I'm here with you. You don't have to feel this alone. It helps kids feel less afraid of their own emotions. Does that feel accurate?
This is a really good point about the fear because general, yeah, and you're right about the adults too, who never felt like they could feel an emotion. They didn't have the support, so they're afraid of emotion. And so we want to make sure that our kids feel not afraid by, and that the only way to do that is to be present. That's how they don't feel afraid. And we can even name if we think because sometimes they don't have the words. A lot of times they don't have the words. Sometimes I'll name like, oh, it might be, sometimes it's scary, or sometimes it's just hard to go to school, or like if they're not saying it, I
Mm-hmm.
say it with a question like, it might have been hard today at school, just as a thing, because I think it helps them incorporate then into their sort of, to organize the feelings into like, oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's because it was hard at school today, or whatever it was, or I didn't get enough sleep, or I'm frustrated because I can't get this homework done and I feel bad about it,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of help them name it as in a tentative way. And I like, maybe it's this. Or I
Mm-hmm.
remember when my kid was like 9 or 10, or the sort of tweens, like they're starting to get away from us. They're starting to feel a pull away from us, but they're also grieving that. So very confusing. So kind of naming that for them, like,
Mm-hmm.
because you see it in their behavior, and you might say,
Mm-hmm.
and because they beat themselves up about it because they don't know what it is, it's confusing. So I might say like, I know it's sometimes you just want to get away from me, and sometimes you miss me, and it's hard to hold all that together, and I bet it can be confusing. Is that kind of what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
say that. But definitely the fear, and I think the other thing is that when people feel safe in their emotions, and again this is ADP related, like we can feel our emotion when we feel safe and together with someone that cares.
Mm-hmm.
We will feel the emotion within like 2 to 5 minutes pretty much.
Oh, that sounds like such a relief rather than having to keep it in a container for who knows your whole life, or rather than like it lasting an hour because you're kind of like always tapping the brakes on it. So you're saying if we can just feel it, like Emily Nagoski talks about moving through all the way through the tunnel, like we can actually let the emotion go all the way through within a few minutes.
Well, they call it the wave of emotion in AADP. And the wave of emotion goes, if we can really feel it intensely and we feel connected, not alone, because when we're alone, we're just in spin cycle usually and we get stuck or lost. This is like
Mm-hmm.
connection. And then we feel safe, we feel it. And it's usually what I see is just a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes through the
Mm-hmm.
wave. And then we feel relief. We take a deep
Mm-hmm.
breath and we feel like, okay, that wave passed. Doesn't mean there aren't going to be more waves, but you
Mhm,
got,
mhm,
and so it's like, you start to feel better and relief and like maybe some insights about what to do next. And that's
mhm,
the same for our
mhm.
kids,
Yeah.
kids, they'll just like scream and cry and it comes out, and maybe it's longer than a few minutes, but then if they feel safe, then they're like, okay, and they just get up and start playing again, right?
Mhm,
But
mhm,
that's what that, and so when adult, even this is more adults, like when we start to experience that can just move through that wave and we'll be fine, like we start to gain more confidence that those
mhm.
feelings aren't as scary or threatening as we thought they were. Like it's
Right. Yeah, it's so powerful. Like to be less afraid of our own emotions, but to be less afraid of our children's emotions, to think of it as, I like that image of the wave, like it's something, it's going to come up, it's going to be uncomfortable, but it will pass. It will not, it's not forever. It doesn't mean anything about the child. It's not like they're bad or they're disrespectful or they're like all the cultural overlays that are super unhelpful and super unhelpful in the moment, right? If we can like kind of let go of those and say, oh, they're feeling some big emotions. They're going to ride this wave. We're going to ride it with them. We'll be there as their safe person. They're going to feel it. And then they can come to the other side and then emotions feel safer. And I love how you're saying like things kind of just clear out and it's like, oh, I could just do this or I could figure this, they can kind of now they can think again, essentially, and start thinking how they want to deal with whatever is in front of them or just go play.
Yes. I mean, that's the book, also the book, How to Talk So Your Kids Will Listen, and Listen So Your Kids Will Talk.
Mm,
That's
mhm,
where, when you validate your kids' experience in their kind of language, not using, adult language, but sort of like, yeah, I can understand you'd feel that, or I get it. Um, that empowers them then to find their own solution. We don't need to find their
mhm.
solution. We just need to support them and help them to know that it's okay.
Right,
What you're
right.
to with the emotion, like once you get through it, you automatically start to have insights and really there's a lot that comes and freedom, like that freedom to play. But also, if it's a problem you're kind of working through, it could be like, oh, I actually know what to do now. I just need to go to this office and do this if it's an adult.
Hmm. Hmm.
Or if it's a kid, like, oh, I know how to deal with this tricky situation with my friends who aren't talking to me.
Hmm.
Say this to them, or whatever it is.
Right, right. It's so powerful to when we're not kind of hijacked by the emotion or trying to suppress the emotion, then it frees us up. I love that language of just like feeling free after the wave has passed and yeah, being able to think again. Let me see. I know I had so many questions for you because I wanted to pick your brain. Um, Let's see. One of the things that you talked about was progress, not perfection. And we've talked about that some today. So, for a parent who feels like they've been getting it wrong for a long time, maybe they're learning about some of these things, for the first time, and they are carrying a lot of guilt. And what would you say to that parent who's carrying a lot of guilt? What would you say about repair being possible and what that might look like?
Oh, great question. Because first of all, it's all about compassion for yourself. It's never too late. It's never too late. Your kids could be adults and it's never too late. I mean, I see it all
Mhm.
the times. Um, so yes, I mean, it takes a lot of courage. I would say to that parent, you are so courageous
Mm,
to want to deal with this now. It's so hard. It's even harder when you're dealing with it later, when you're like, oh, 10 years have gone by like this and I feel bad because I've made this mistake over and over, or whatever it is, yelling, whatever. There's so many mistakes we make.
mhm,
I feel bad, and but if you're willing to push through that and still ask for help, I mean, that takes so much courage to do that.
mhm,
I would just say, like, go for it. Go for it. It is
mhm,
never too late. And it is so courageous of you to do that. And
mhm,
just have compassion for yourself. Like, it's hard. This is hard. This is the hardest thing. And nobody can judge anybody else because everybody has different kids, and some kids are harder than others, honestly.
mhm,
So,
mhm,
you know, it's really hard. And also, some people had harder childhoods than others, and they're dealing with very tricky patterns and not having the support they needed. So how are they supposed to now suddenly do it perfectly? Plus, they didn't get the schooling. Our parents didn't teach us how to parent. School didn't teach us how to parent. We're supposed to just learn it from a few books. No,
mhm,
it's hard, and not everyone has the resources to get therapy. Like,
mhm.
so anyway, I would just say, like, it takes a lot of courage, and I would fully support you in doing that, no matter.
Yeah, I love that. I love that someone listening can really feel like listening to this podcast, whatever books you're reading, whatever journey you're on, it takes courage. Like you're having the courage to do that, and that is powerful. Yes, I love that. And it's kind of helps lighten the load a bit of the guilt. And I love that you're saying we need compassion because this is hard. And so if you're feeling like it's hard, yes, you're not alone. I've definitely been there. It sounds like you've been there with them.
My gosh. And again, our kids learn from our mistakes. And if we can be courageous and pick ourselves up and ask
Mhm.
for help, like, what a learning for them that they can do that too. And that we are admitting we're not perfect. And like, then that allows us all to make mistakes as we do in life, and that
Mhm.
there's no shame in that at all. It's actually
Yes.
courageous to be able to admit it. So I think it's an opportunity again.
Yes, it's an opportunity. So this is my final question. Katharina, you raised a child who used to tell you you were one of the worst parents ever, which probably most kids have said that to their parents. I know mine have. And now they acknowledge that you're pretty great, which is nice to have them be on the other side. And so from that arc, the car ride home, and now they're a young adult, that's exactly the kind of hope that parents right now need to hold on to, right? Especially parents of young kids. What would you say to that parent who's in the middle of one of those seasons right now? Maybe they're about to pick up their kid from school. They're about to have one of those car ride home moments, who loves their kids deeply and still struggle because it's really freaking hard. What would you say to that parent?
Oh my gosh, yes. I remember that feeling of like, oh no, it's almost three. Bracing. Yeah, well, honestly, like it's true. My kid did ever since, well, both kids, since they've been adults, they've been saying like, oh, we had such a great childhood. And I'm always like, okay. Like, I mean, I don't think it was obviously wasn't perfect as I've said here, but I'm just it's so funny. Like they're like, "Oh, you were such a great communicator. We've learned so much, blah blah blah." Yes, it does change. I promise it will change, especially if you're just working on yourself as you go, working on your, because we all have to work on ourselves. There's no perfect parent who is just like sprouted from Zeus, being a perfect parent. Like that doesn't happen. So we're all either people are faking it or pretending, so or they're like working hard and admitting that they're working hard. I don't know anyone who was like, unless they had super easy kids who were just like drawing in a corner, like that. Sometimes you have those parents, but like that's not me. So
Me neither.
so I would just say, remember that it will change, it will get better, and you will look back on this time with so happy that you spent that time doing the work you did. I mean, because, it really is like later, I'm in that place now where I'm looking back going, "Oh, I'm so glad I took that extra time, or I'm so glad I asked for help, um,
Mhm.
God,
Yeah, yeah, I love that too, because we don't have to do this alone. And there's lots of different kinds of help that we can get. And yeah, that is, we live in this culture that really drives home independence, and it's not helpful. It's not helpful. We were created and wired for community, and we need community. We need to surround ourselves, whether it be therapy or other kinds of support, that we don't have to do this alone. And I'm wondering, how can people find out about you? Where can people learn about you?
Well, they can look at my website, which is lovefrontiertherapy.com. I have a group of wonderful therapists who work with me, and we work with mostly with, we don't work with kids, but we work with adults and parents and couples and family, adult families, but also parent coaching and things like that.
Awesome. So you're in California. So anybody in California can come to see you all, and be it virtually or what have you, possibly.
Yeah, or Florida. We are also telehealth. Some of us have telehealth capacity for Florida.
Great. Okay. So California and Florida listeners, you can check them out, and I'll put all the links in the show notes. But thank you so much for coming on. I really, really appreciate it. It's been such a lovely conversation, and I'm sure parents are going to get so much from it. And for those of you listening, if you're enjoying these episodes, please leave us a review. That helps more people learn about the show, and hopefully helps more parents feel less alone on this journey. And a reminder, this content is intended for educational purposes only and should not be used as a replacement for private psychotherapy services. Compassionate Heart Parenting does not provide psychotherapy services in any capacity. If you need mental health treatment, please find a qualified professional in your area. Thank you so much for listening. The light in me sees the light in you. Be well.